Okay, today what we're going to start learning about are sources that we use in history. So as historians, or people learning about history, we use both primary and secondary sources. So can someone, or will someone please tell me what they have heard or what they do know about either primary or secondary sources? Your answers do not have to be right. We're learning. We're having a conversation here.
Primary sources are eyewitness accounts.
Okay, thank you, Dane. Can someone else? Yes, Taylor.
Primary sources are written in the time that they're produced.
Good job. Okay, and can someone either give me an example of a primary source, or we can move on to secondary sources?
The journal could be a primary source.
Good job, Dane. Thank you. Okay, so let's move on to secondary sources. If we know that primary sources are eyewitness accounts, what might we be able to infer about secondary sources?
They're written outside of time.
Okay. Okay, yeah, sure. So they can be written at a later time. Okay. How about you, Justin? Can you give me any ideas?
Secondary sources would be secondhand information.
Okay. So,
They're reproduced.
okay, sure, yeah. So in secondary sources, you can take multiple primary sources, put them together to make a new document. So we'll put uses primary sources. Perfect, guys. Awesome. Okay, and then can someone give me an example of a secondary source so we can kind of use the same method that we did to talk about primary source or secondary sources? If a journal is a primary source and it was because it was written in that time, what might be an example of a secondary source?
A textbook for our history class.
A history textbook class, correct. So the books that we have in this classroom would be secondary sources. Okay, so let's now move into, since we now know some basic characteristics of what primary and secondary sources are, a little chant, if you will, that I use to help me remember what they are, because it is kind of confusing if you think about it. Both are using primary sources, but how you use them is very different. So a quick way and a rhyme to remember it is a first-hand account when the writer was there means a primary source is being shared. So I'm going to do it once, and then I want you guys, we'll learn it together, okay? So this is how I do it. A first-hand account when the writer was there means a primary source is being shared. Okay, so let's just try it all together. So the hand clap, let's get the hand clap going. Yeah, a little rhythm. Okay, let's try the words. A first-hand account when the writer was there means a primary source is being shared. Okay, do we think that we have it? Let's try it. Okay, ready? First-hand account when the writer was there means the primary source is being shared. Let's do it again. First-hand account when the writer was there means the primary source is being shared. Okay, perfect. Okay, so now that we know a little chant to help us remember what primary sources are, we've discussed the characteristics of them. I want to now put it into action. So we are going to become our own historians, if you will. We are going to make our own primary sources. Now, what I would like to do is I would like for you guys to, there's blank sheets of paper in front of you. What I would like to do is, who is a fan of the zombie apocalypse? Because I know that I am. Yeah. Okay, awesome. So what I would like to do is I would like to do an activity where you guys are going to write just a nice solid paragraph about the zombie, for humans after the zombie apocalypse. So the people in the future are going to read this, and then they're going to know, what life was like prior to the apocalypse. Really, it's up to you. Just make sure that it's appropriate, okay? So so let's get to work, and if you have any questions, just let me know.